Live, live, live. We are going live. I think I'm live. Should be live. Check, check. Hey, everybody, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I think we're making it happen here. Let me turn the volume down so I don't hear myself. What is happening? Welcome, everyone. Give people a little time to shuffle in here, and then we can get going. So, as you probably know from being here before, every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, I'm going to be charting every week. On Wednesday, I let them make requests, which I usually put in the Thursday newsletter. I figured that doing it live like this would be a better way to show them exactly how I'm looking at charts, how I'm thinking when I open a chart, either blank or based on what I did before, and where I would potentially be interested in trading that asset. So I took the requests, not that many this week, which is not surprising because my subscribers know that we don't trade when the market doesn't look great, and it hasn't looked great for the last couple of days. So if you ever want to make a request, as you can see, I've got the page pulled up right here. This is the Wolf Den Crypto newsletter. It's at getreview.co/profile/the Wolf Den/members. You can join. It's $15 a month. It comes out every Tuesday and Thursday. I basically write like a full magazine twice a week. It's honestly, it's pretty absurd how much work we put into it. And then you'll be able to request your chart. So just going to click back here, make sure that this is working. I see people talking over here. It's go time. Yes, go Gators. How is Gainesville? We have a lot of COVID here. In fact, they just canceled the football game for this weekend against LSU because 19 players on the Gators have COVID. This was as they were about to try to fill the entire stadium, which obviously is not that wise. So anyways, here we go. I'm going to go into the first request here, which was banned Bitcoin. Now, keep in mind, I didn't do any charting in advance of this stream. I just opened up what I had before, which is sometimes a really funny exercise because you get to see all the mistakes that you made. In this case, you can see all the trades that I've shared unbanned here, long here. And that was the last one that we shared. And there were lines that were like here and certainly probably here. So exited somewhere above. Monster trades, many multiples. These were kind of in the earlier days, somewhat of the newsletter. Not really a few months in, but we started really trading this back, I think, on the break of this line in April. So we've had a whole lot of trades and not something that we've traded since. Someone had a chart request for it at some point. This clearly was on a lower time frame if we look this line, but we had this break of support here, which was last time that I said was a good time to exit on the way down, and you can see what's happened since. But none of that is particularly relevant now. Let's go back to the daily chart and take a look now. First of all, it's always interesting to see if your lines are good. I mean, these were drawn, months ago. So clearly we had the top. That's the all-time high. Then here we had this one, tested, fell. So that line's good. This line is amazing, right? Here, all this resistance here, all these times it tried, failed. And then we had this line here, which was clear with the 2 touches, break right at the line, resistance, fail, resistance, tried, fake out, fail, back here, fail again. So for the first thing that jumps out to me when I'm looking at this is that line there at 64700. You don't want anything to do with this below that line, right? Even with this little fake out. So what you want to see is, something where it comes up and heads up here. This line I don't think is so relevant anymore. I would maybe put it like that. something like that. Lines change. Your bias is towards the newest price action, not the oldest. So you have to always go back and change. It's an art. It's not a science, right? So I think that there's a lot of ways you could have drawn kind of lines here. Maybe make it white. Maybe something like this. It's good. You have a breakout, kind of a retest. But to be honest, like it just doesn't really look that great below that 64,700, because you would even draw like some sort of support here on a lower time frame, something really local that would indicate a bottom, something like this. And clearly that broke, right? So to be honest, there's just not much to be excited about. This is, at this point, if what's jumping out at me on the 4-hour, something in here. It doesn't have to be exact, but this was the bottom of this entire move, held above, break, resistance. So if that comes down to here again, that's somewhere that I would potentially look for an entry if you think that altcoins are going to do well. But to be quite honest, I just don't see anything on band at the moment. You could have some weird big like rounding inverse head and shoulders, like with a bottom here, and then it rounds out and heads up, in which case we could theoretically draw some sort of resistance like that, make it more pronounced. And so you could say that this is a neckline that needs to be broken, and maybe that's some sort of like broadening descending wedge down here, but none of this is really that compelling, and none of us really gives us any entry until you're up here, right? So otherwise you're going to catch a falling knife. I know sometimes it's counterintuitive seemingly to want to buy something at a higher price, but that's where the confirmation comes in. And you could even, on the 4-hour, you could move this line up to like here, 691. But I'd be happy if it started closing more candles up here and bounced and headed up. I really wish there was kind of more to say on this one, but not so much. Somebody's asking me if there's sound, but I am hoping that you guys hear the sound. I think you do. If for some reason you don't, let me know, but it seems like there is sound. All right, so sadly, that is all I can see for band. Oh, well, let's look at one more thing. It's not really there on the daily, actually. So maybe it's 12-hour. We get something. No. 6-hour, we can look at it. Not that interesting, but I just kind of noticed it on the 4-hour that there's this little area of consolidation here. And that's the bottom, right? That's a demand zone. Some orders were probably left behind on this rise, always waiting here to buy. So there's probably been buying interest in this area. I didn't even know it would line up exactly, but it tends to, comes right down and touches there. So that's pretty cool. Let's make that white so we keep it on there. Got to be quick with your tools. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that and move on from band to the next one. Once I go back and check that there's sound, yeah, you guys can hear me, amazing, thought so. Let's go back to BLZ, Bluzel, that's the next one. I don't even know, this looks like we're, oh, there we go. The stream makes the internet a bit slow. So this was not one that I looked at very often, but we did have this channel on the chart, as you can see, breakout, retest, absolute rocket. So this was something that was presented. This is a really nice channel, up, up, almost down, down, up. I mean, really convincing. And like I say, a lot of the times about these channels, you can see that they're a good, solid technical pattern when you see a lot of action around this EQ, the equilibrium, which is the 50% line between the top and the bottom. That works for trading ranges when you draw them this way, for ascending channels, descending channels, and you can see like there's just tons of price action, perfect rejections, perfect rejection, perfect rejection, a whole line of perfect rejections at that line, a flip on really strong volume, rejection, back, up, up. So that's what you're looking for in something like that. Completely irrelevant for what we're looking at right now. It has nothing to do with, the price action, just something really cool to look at. So I was about to turn off the name there, but it doesn't matter. But now it's kind of gotten uglier from there, right? I mean, this was a really defined top with an epic drop. I don't know, but we'll do the experiment where we pull up RSI and see if we had some bearish divergence, because we almost always do. Bear div here, drop, bear div here, top coming out of overbought with a bear div. Best top signal there is. Sorry, I say it all the time. I use it all the time. It is what it is. It's an incredible indicator. So now you see it, that we had that top there. We don't really have any bullish divergence, and we haven't reached oversold yet. As you know, oversold, overbought, back and forth, RSI, the pendulum swings, right? Eventually it hits both. So we would expect that this could potentially get to oversold. This could be enough, but definitely worth watching. As far as what we would draw on this, I don't know. I think we have a clear area here, right? Remember, you start on the right, move to the left, just like you're reading Hebrew or something. So, right, see this line? Always. So easy. It's always a good line, right? Boom, support. Where's resistance? Well, these are kind of in the same area, right? This whole cluster of action here. So, like I said, these lines are kind of more like zones than they are exact lines. But, if you want to draw it, see what I mean by that, I think you'll find that we have tons of price action in this area. Tons. Right? I mean, this entire cluster before the drop is in this area. I don't love it over here. It's kind of irrelevant. Maybe, that's a top and whatever, but you could even just pull it like to here, but you get the idea. Doesn't matter where the line is. A line should be viewed as a zone, as an area of interest. It's not exactly the spot, right? So this is a clear rejection. This here, what you don't want to see if you're a bull, that wick above resistance. It's a bearish SFP, although really, guys, we talk about SFPs all the time. It's a conceptual idea, the swing failure pattern. It's an area that you're looking for liquidity to be found before price goes the other way. The real SFPs on high time frames would be like if this high was broken way over here months later and there's tons of liquidity and it dumps. But conceptually, it's the same even on these shorter time frames. And you can see resistance, breakthrough, that's great selling liquidity. This fails, hits that line, and then a big move away, right? I mean, you're talking about from 113 down to 887. This is a significant move. So unfortunately, like most coins we'll probably look at now, I don't think we're going to see too much excitement. We had a ton of these on coins for the last, few days, and they've all kind of they had their nice little breakout, and then they've failed. So you might look for, a test of support. If it dribbles down here, test this line. That'd be a nice confluence of support, and then head back up. But I'm not that excited about it, to be honest. I think we have another level. If we really get a big drop, something through here, that top, broken on volume, huge volume on the break, and then a retest, strong volume away from it, right? Now, you could also draw this line like this, by the way, depending on your bias. But I kind of think that this was clear. It broke out, faked out, and whatever. It's kind of hard to draw lines through when you have this kind of like action up here. I mean, you could draw something here. Maybe I would like put it a little closer to that, but something like that. But, what'll jump out at most people looking at something like this is it just, even though it wouldn't probably technically be a head and shoulders, we do have something that kind of similar, right? With that bear div that I showed you. So that was a clear top, and now, it's kind of rounding out up here. So I would not be surprised to see more downside on this, but really not much to do with that pattern because your neckline would be all the way down here. But, Just kind of nothing that looks particularly bullish on most of these charts right now. So I don't see a reason to buy this yet. I would consider taking a shot if it dropped down to this line at 748. That's been a key level, and there's been strong support there. So I could definitely see you doing that. I probably wouldn't myself. Next request was Cake BNB, which I actually had no idea was a real thing when I read it. It was like, what is that? But clearly it's brand new, something with very little price action, meaning it's going to be very hard to analyze. Maybe we even go down into the hourly on this. I think 4 hours probably enough to get a good view. So classic drops onto the exchange. This one didn't even get its exchange pump. It just dumped immediately, sadly, which not really that great looking. We do have now a 4-hour 50 MA, and it is supporting price. So that's actually a pretty nice little bounce here. For people who trade, MAs on the 4 hour, the 200 is even more compelling, but this 50 still, that's nice to see it appearing and holding as support. So let's just try to find some levels first. Drop one at the all-time high, of course. All-time high is kind of a meme. You could count that, but you're going to look for something around here that, that's kind of right through here, through there. So, I don't think we need to force it back. I think it's clear that it's something like that, right? I mean, if you want to feel better about your lines, you can draw it here, right? Support, break, support, breaks through and closes below, comes up, rejected and down, and then rejected again, right? If this was a stock or some high liquid asset or something, these are spots that you take shorts, right? It's a break of support and a retest, break and retest. That's the most classic and simple and probably the safest trades that you're going to find most of the time. That's a confirmation. I'm just going to move this camera a little bit. So what's happening now? Hard to tell because we have so little price action. But clearly, if we were doing a supply and demand kind of thing, maybe we throw it down here. Right? Perfect. Jump right through. So we could draw a line here. We could draw a line right here. All of those would be relevant. Like there's a clear top right here. That's almost the EQ of this channel. You just get really good at eyeballing these things. Like, look how many candles were stopped right there. Your eye should jump right to that if you're charting. And of course, that's right below these and right where this came through, right? We'll keep it like this. So hard to draw any discernible patterns here. Now, one thing you can definitely do, since we have a very defined low, is pull a support here, right? This is your key support on this chart right now on a 4 hour. And it's even possible, I can't tell you for sure, but this might be an ascending channel. Might be perfect. Often is. Pretty fucking close, right? Down, up, back towards the bottom of the channel. It's pretty clear. Pretty clear. So let's pull that. So anything above this line, this support, this channel is going to be pretty bullish, right? I mean, price is rising. We've got a low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, maybe. It's just, price likes to travel in channels. You should look for channels all the time. It's the first thing you should look for. It's just that the nature of how kind of markets price action tends to move. So we might look for another touch on the bottom and then a move back up to the top. Now, again, it's important to differentiate this. I talk about this a lot, but that's a higher low. This is not a higher low yet because you need to have a higher high before that's a higher low, because then if you end up with a lower high, you got to change in structure. But I would say that I actually kind of like this. I'm not saying you would buy it right here. This was a nice buy. If you can get a touch on this support, really good. If you can get something that looks like this, really good, right? Because you would buy it here on the retest of this area. EQ could be a struggle, but listen, if we're bottoming out here, we'd expect to come back up and test this area and eventually test that. So listen, I'm not feeling that great about alts today or in general, but like as long as it's in this channel, it generally should continue up. And the invalidation is super, super clear. Candle close below this line. That's it. So your stop loss is somewhere down here. And the reason that I kind of like trading ascending channels a lot of the time is because your stop loss gets to move up with price, right? So you might be setting a stop at 21.65 now. Like, you know, you might, I'm not saying take a position here because I personally wouldn't. But like maybe, you know, to avoid a wick, you move a stop here. But if price continues, as the channel continues up, you just move your stop up like that, right? So as long as you're in the channel, and your entry and your stop goes up. So basically your risk reward is improved each candle that closes without the channel breaking down. So when you can play something with an ascending stop loss, it can be really, really compelling because your risk reward improves with the entire setup. So that's pretty sweet. I'm just clicking back over here. I know, see what we got. Okay, basically a bunch of people saying we have sound, which is what I'm looking for. So that's good. All right, seller. Haven't looked at this in a long time. I'm scared. Crap. Wow. I got kicked off, but I'm back. All right, so I think we are going again, hopefully. I can see you got a nice picture of me drinking water that was frozen there, but hopefully we are still live here. Appears that we are. So hopefully I'm just waiting to see the actual stream come out of the delay, which does not seem to be happening. You can tell that I have no idea what I'm doing here, and I'm total not exactly a tech genius, right? But here we are. All right, let's look at seller. I think we're live again, hopefully. Yeah. So you can see we had a alarm set on this line. There's the alarm showing, and this was our last along on this. We had a trade here. So actually not as bad as I thought. Now, again, you know, these are old lines. So how would I draw it now? Let's go to the daily and check it out. You know, I would probably take this line over here. Delete this. That's a perfect bullish SFP, right? Price went way far away, came all the way back down, found liquidity right below this little swing low and headed up. That's what you're looking for when we're talking about that. This line is still pretty good, actually. I mean, that's perfect resistance, resistance, break, perfect support, broke, resistance, and down. You definitely want to see price back above 55. I mean, you know, this is, again, it's so funny to pull up all these charts because you just end up seeing the same thing over and over and over and over again, right? Just not what you want, right? So clear. Now the volume here on the break is really not impressive. So you could argue that this doesn't really count that much, but you know, that's clear kind of top situation. Let's see if there was a bull div here. I bet there was. Every time, right? I mean, I can feel them. I'm like the bull div whisperer. Oh, come on. That was annoying. Right? So there was your bottom. Draw it. You would draw it on the bodies, whatever, but you can see that was a perfect bottom. Had it. Now we have a potential hidden bearish divergence, which would be where this oscillator, the RSI, is making a higher high and we're making a lower high on price. So this looks like more of a relief bounce than a reversal in this case, but you know, it was good for 35 up to 46. Still a pretty nice move if you were just trading on that divergence. But at this point, man, it's hard to get excited about these coins, really. Maybe move this down here, close that up. There's just really like nothing really exciting. We could draw maybe some super like local resistance here, and you could say that it broke. Test here. But yeah, I mean, I would buy this maybe at 36 if you're interested, although it's been tested already. Buy it here and, you know, set a stop like almost way down here in case you get a big wick, since that's been tapped already. But you don't want to be in this below 33, 32, something like that, because then you could be heading all the way down to 19. Sorry, guys, not much good news today, honestly. Just look crappy. IBOV. This is I think an index, a Brazilian stock index, and not one that I'm familiar with, so I can't speak to the fundamentals at all. This is the daily chart. No surprises here. Doom in March, steady climb since. What jumps out at me as really interesting is I can tell you right now that this is where resistance was found because it's where the drop started, right? So obvious. Pull that supply zone from that candle. This is where you expect there to have been leftover selling orders and supply and tons of resistance, and you get it, right? So there's going to be something like this there most of the time. So that was really it. And so at this point, you want to see price doing, you know, one of these if you're going to buy it, because you could buy it here, I guess, but it's more interesting here, or if it dips way back down into here, something like that. But that's the setup that at least I can say I would ideally be looking for in something like this. You know, you could draw some lines, got something here clearly, right? You could pull one maybe here. I don't really think there's much to see. Maybe here. See, all this is so hard to utilize for technical analysis because it was such an impulsive dump on such a macro situation. I mean, it's a global market dump. It's going to destroy your charts, right? So we had a death cross here of the 50 and the 200. There's a reaction to this, continued down. You know, you can see how much of a lagging indicator MAs are because price reversed here. The MA didn't reverse until here. And this is the faster moving MA. Golden cross here, as you can see, somewhat completely useless. Didn't do anything. That's why I hate them. That's why I don't use them. They fail more often than not. And when they do play out, it's usually a result of something that already happened, not something that's like about to happen, you know? So it can be really kind of confusing. And now you can see we're finding resistance here at the 50. But I would say that anything above this line tends to, there's no reason to think immediately that price is going to be dropping down below here. We should find support now that's back above the 200, right? It went back temporarily. It's here. So maybe it drops down here and heads back up. So this is going to be one of those things. If the market does well, it'll probably do well. And if the market doesn't, it'll probably suffer. But if we had to draw a pattern here, I would say that some sort of broadening descending wedge, you know, one of these kind of things, or because you could draw that line clearly in a bunch of places, something like that. So theoretically, this should break to the upside eventually. The problem is it can come all the way down here and test this support. So it's a hard pattern to play. And that's why you don't buy any of these things until they break out, right? So you could buy this here. You could buy it and take a profit here. You could buy it on top of here. You can take it down here. There's a lot of ways to enter any trade. You just need to know what your plan is, right? The best ones are a test of support because you can put a stop right below here and lose almost nothing if you're wrong. But, you know, looking at this, there's just not that much to see. Maybe we can zoom out. Like on an index like this, you can usually look at a weekly or monthly chart. It is interesting that, let's even go to the monthly. as you would somewhat anticipate, there was some sort of key level here or here, or you could draw any of them, or here. That one stopped two monthly candles. It's exactly where the drop ended, right? Cool. And holding above the 50 MA on the monthly, right, breaking through it on the weekly. So this does look pretty good these last 2 weeks. So I would say that this is generally moving bullish. I would just wait for a bit more confirmation on it if you can get it. So on to the next one, MRPH, Morpheus Network. This is not something I've ever traded. It was only on Bittrex here for the chart, but I will pull it up and see what we can find. First thing that would jump out to me would be like something like this, and this is probably a channel. This is probably a big channel. Every time, guys. I mean, not every time, but yeah, it's so predictable. Look how perfect when you pull the parallel channel tool. That's up here, by the way. Right? Parallel channel, I use this all the time. This is how I draw trading ranges, how I draw supply and demand, all of these things. I mean, it's almost like a given. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4 perfect touches on support. And I wasn't even looking at the bottom of that. I was just looking at the top to draw that top line. So that channel is your story, right? And right now, of course, wick, ugly candle below the EQ. So if I was trading this with regard to the channel, I would want, something like this. Buy it here on the retest. Okay. Otherwise, maybe down here, 50 MA, something like that. This is a really, really hard chart because there's wicks all over the place. Like every candle, there's all these ones. So it's really hard, in my opinion, on this chart to find somewhere that I would draw like a great horizontal line. Maybe there, but I don't know. You could draw one like maybe up here with these candle closes. Right? Something like that. But again, like how do you draw anything with wicks like this? This is a illiquid asset. It's just really difficult. But, zooming out, this pattern should eventually one day break out to the top and go to new highs. But it's very up. And I know that we're having some more tech issues here, apparently, because my Zoom just cut in and came back. But hopefully, you'll be able to see me soon. Hopefully, this will catch up, and we'll be working momentarily because the struggle is very real. All right, so I'm going to just leave this one up here for a second, and hopefully I will come back to life and stop being so frozen. Don't know what is happening with the internet around here, but I seem to be moving again. So hopefully you're seeing it again. I'm getting messages, like 100 messages at a time, that you guys can't see the chart. Yeah, I get it. Hopefully you're alive again. I'm going to share my screen is the problem. Hey, 1 second, guys. Now we're back to sharing the screen, which apparently cut out for the last 40 minutes. Classic. I don't know where you guys probably saw last. Can somebody tell me what chart you saw last if you guys are with me here? I can try to go back in the stream and see. Somewhere in seller. Yeah. Not cool. Not cool. My bad, guys. So I think that the last chart you were looking for was a seller. Is that right? Anyone? This is a train wreck. I apologize. So that was the gist on seller. IBOV, I'm just going to go back and talk about it really quick. We had a clear supply zone. Price ran into that, dumped away, formed a broadening, descending broadening wedge. And so you'd be looking for a break of the top of this or something coming into here. Now, MRPH was the next one. I don't think you guys heard that one either, unfortunately. So we'll talk about that. As I drew this all from scratch. I had never looked at this chart before, but we did that. This huge descending channel, rejection at the EQ. So we want to see above the EQ, above this line, above this channel. Hey guys, I need a YouTube producer. Just saying, if anyone's out there and knows how to produce a YouTube stream, talk to me, because this didn't work out too good. I'm going to move on to the next one, Ren USDT. First, I'm going to go back and make sure that I'm alive. Okay. Ren USDT. And I am sweating in here for some reason. It's really hot. I've never looked at the Ren chart on the USDT pair. I always kind of check it on the Bitcoin pair. I mean, we have a clear level here, right? Major rejection. Just throw one on at the highs here. Now you do have a bit of a inverse head and shoulders situation here. Now, again, I talked about this last week, but this has to be a bottom for it to be an inverse head and shoulders. So some would argue that this is not enough of a bottom, but we do have clear movement coming down into it. So you could count it. And we have a whole metric ton of volume coming out of the pattern, which is really what you want to see if you're trading something like this, right? Above, heading up. So I would say that this became pretty bullish right here, but now once again, we have a clear rejection. So you want to see price above this, moving up and away, right? So I would take a flip of 41998 as a good sign that this was ready to continue up. You know, with this clear rejection here, draw something like that. You could also play it that way. This would also be I'm sure, a descending broadening wedge. That, right? So between these two lines, but I don't love that. And this support is utterly and completely irrelevant. So for me, I would, and here's another interesting thing worth looking at. See this big candle moving away. So that's where we leave demand behind. Boom, there was your entry, right? Perfect, almost every time. If we were drawing supply at this point, I would take this candle here and expect a whole lot of resistance up there if price gets there. But for me, I would want to be above this descending line and above this horizontal line before I would trade it. Otherwise, you're looking at trying to catch something lower. Maybe you have some fresh demand here. So these are the areas I would potentially take trades. So that would be kind of cool if it came down here, retested, hit that, and then headed up. So I'd be looking for something here. Ultimately, what you really want to see is boom, boom, buy it here and heads up. But you know, this looks pretty good. Near the all-time high, nothing too scary. And most importantly, look at this. How much volume we have coming into this. Just like this massive and steady, very steady increase in volume, right? Yeah, it's higher here, but it's even higher here than it was at the all-time high. So volume tends to precede price. That's a famous saying. So I would expect that this will eventually continue up. Again, it's a USD pair, so it's largely going to probably do what Bitcoin does. But I like that volume a lot. I'm just going to check back in over here and make sure that we're actually working. Yeah, I think we're alive. All right, Tomo. These are old lines again. This was another one that we bought. This was a setup we shared at the breakout. You can see that it was very profitable, but I'm going to go ahead and just completely delete all these lines. Not that they're bad. This one's definitely really good, but I like to, sometimes just clear them off and take more recent price action. Look for something in this area. Like here's, for example, like you could say that this swung up maybe, but liquidity grab, dump, right? Price came all the way back up. This is where the sellers were. Heavy, waiting right above this line, dump. Okay. If we're doing supply and demand, this is, I would pull something like this. This is a demand zone. This is where orders are left from people who are wanting to buy and price left them behind. So there's all these orders here. They come, get tapped, and price moves away. I mean, these are very, 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 very simple concepts, but they happen all the time, especially on low liquidity assets like this that people can, as you'll likely say, manipulate, but they can basically control what price is going to do. This is a very clear level, rejecting support up, broken, reject here, and now it's acting as support. So actually, I could see buying this here, to be honest. I wouldn't, because I'm just not that interested right now, but this is what you wanted to see, was a break above, and then, won't go straight like that, but, something like that. That's what you're getting. Otherwise, I would look into this area and probably place my stops down here. But ultimately, you've got this other major kind of zone down here. Honestly, I think everything right now looks like it would be sort of like catching a knife, and there's not much reason to be confident at the moment. This could also definitely be a bear flag. Let's see. Take your parallel channel tool, start here at the bottom. Yeah, I don't like that. I wouldn't buy that, to be honest. You're looking for flagpole here. If this plays out, depending on where you draw your flagpole, you could argue here, some would argue here, but you'd be looking for something like way down. I don't think that'll happen, guys, but that's where your targets are, would be all-time lows. That's not going to happen. It's a log chart. It's pulling it, but you could definitely see there being some sort of drop. So the bear flag is not confirmed. It's just an idea. Like anything in trading, you have to see it break down and then ideally retest. So as long as it's in here, this ascending channel could go indefinitely. It could break to the upside, becomes a bear flag when the confirmation of the break. But when that happens, you start to look at these much lower targets. So for now, I would probably horizontally, if you never drew this, you could say, yeah, maybe this is a buy, and I put a stop down here below these lows. But with this major drop, and then this sort of like low volume movement up, it looks like more like bearish consolidation. Now ZEC USDT. There's another one. Man, these charts all look so much the same. It's really funny. So these are all old lines. There's nothing that I've drawn too recently, and probably looked at it. It appears like maybe back in here. So September. Oh, so not that long ago. Somebody must have requested it. We had this breakout on increasing volume, nice volume. Maybe it's coming back to retest. So I would say that this looks pretty, and it got rejected exactly at resistance, of course. with these curling up, the MA, hopefully this curls up, but I could see buying this if it comes down and, trying to catch it in this area. Get a little greedier, and then like exit if it gets way back into this pattern or something, but technically maybe like down here, you would put your stop loss below this level. This is a clear rejection. I would expect maybe it'll find support. We could even probably, honestly, if you want to get kind of more local with it, I would say that it jumps out that this might be right at support right now, right? If you were trading this and only looked at like this part of the chart, you would definitely draw a line in this area, maybe down here, but that's why I say they're zones. They're not lines necessarily. Like that's clear resistance and a perfect support. So if you want to like look at it that way, you could say, like this, it's an area. So, we're hitting the top of it right here. So maybe if price drops down into that, you could take a long and expect it, and you could exit somewhere, down here, but preferably you wouldn't have it that tight that you would miss it down there. But this pair looks better than most. If you want to draw like a sort of a local support idea, something like that, right? So you could also use that as your invalidation, breaks down, and this is probably a channel because they usually are. Don't like that in white. You need to make that black, huh? And almost perfect. Not quite, but still a channel, right? Comes right through here. Something like that. But what really matters here is the bottom of it. So we're looking for a break of support to say that it would be bad, that it would be time to exit. Let's pull some fibs on this one too, and just curious. Okay, so this technically, I will say on the downside, and I'm sorry, I look at both sides. This looks pretty good being broken here, but technically this could be a bear flag because it did not get past the 50% retracement. I talk about this all the time. If you follow me, a huge move almost always gets a 50% retrace. It's just the reaction to a big move. Same if a move goes up, you usually catch it 50% of the way down. So a bear flag really can't technically be a bear flag anymore once you get above sort of that 50% up in this area, but this did get rejected right below the 50. So a breakdown here could see this falling pretty far. This is going to do what Bitcoin does. If you think Bitcoin is going to go down, then, this would be a short under here, and we'd be looking at targets probably down, pretty far down. So that's the gist of the chart request. I'm going to come back. I know we had technical difficulties today. Let's see what I potentially missed here. Who needs charts when you can just hear me talk, right? Sorry, I just didn't see those warnings the entire time. So I'm just going to click back on the seller chart here, which you might have missed that I said, hey, there's probably bullish divergence. There was, so that was a reversal, but now a little bit of hidden bearish divergence. Potentially. This candle hasn't closed yet, so I would keep an eye on that. IBOV, March crash, like everywhere else, this kind of destroys all TA, to be honest with you. And found nice support here and is heading up. I would want to see it up here, ideally above this. I think those are the ones that you guys missed. Please let me know if you have any other particular questions. Someone wants a Bitcoin chart. As always, I'll pull one up real quick. Although I don't think there's much to see, to be honest. Kind of whatever today. Funny, this is something I talked about on Twitter today, which might be worth, this is going to show you why TA is so subjective, right? Okay, so this is a 4-hour chart. They're going to draw it as this sort of like broadening wedge bullhorn pattern, very hard to read. If you're feeling bearish, you could turn this into some sort of like diamond top pattern, you know, something like this. Right? That would make these lines cleaner, obviously. Just trying to illustrate. Right? People would say that that's some sort of diamond. You want it to be more symmetrical. I think that's ugly. I wouldn't play it. You could also say, hey, nah, man, this is super bullish, right? It's a bullish pattern. We got to pen it. I would pen it if I could lock it in, right? Although, by the way, you can't use the candle that's presently printing to draw your pattern, but if you want to get weird about it, put it down here, something like that. Oh no, breaking support. Okay. But this is what I would draw. But any of them could technically be valid to some person who thinks that their patterns look good. I would have drawn something like that. That's kind of breaking down. Although now I don't even like that because this didn't really have a second touch. So the answer is Bitcoin is kind of just being weird. It's chopping up another one of these things where we can't really tell. This is clearly your line though, this area. You want to stay above this. I don't know if there was something up here that, yeah, of course we had this sort of area here. Guys, my internet is bad, so I'm gonna sign off because it just told me it's unstable. I appreciate you guys suffering through that with me. We will do better next time, I promise. But thank you very much for sticking it out, and we will do this again next week, and I'll write these up for you guys tomorrow, those of you who are in the newsletter. So thank you very much, and I look forward to next week when I can actually show you the charts. Bye.